Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys checking out today's video and hanging out with me a little bit. Guys, today we're going to be sort of have a comprehensive discussion about wind and how it impacts fishing and what you can do, how you can use it to your advantage, and how you can just understand how it has an impact on the fish. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is, guys, it is howling outside right now here in Southwest Missouri. I bet we got gusts close to 50 miles an hour. It is freaking blowing like crazy. And it made me think about it, that wind from differing degrees has a lot to do with, how you want to fish and what the fish do. So I sort of want to give you guys sort of just a foundational approach on how to deal with wind, how to use it to your advantage, and some things that have worked for me over the past. So we'll get into that in today's episode. Also, guys, just a quick invitation. I'd like everybody to please consider hitting that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. We're really trying hard to get to 20,000 subscribers. We're about, I think, 1,500 short right now, so that'd be appreciated. And also, guys, please take advantage of the spring fishing sale that Tackle Warehouse has got right now. Big sales on everything. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. If you guys using bookmark that link, it's a good way to help the channel and get you some good tackle too, so appreciate that. Okay, one of the realities in bass fishing that you're going to have to deal with is wind on whatever level it is. I mean, every single day the wind is going to be different. It's going to come out of a different direction, a different wind speed, a lot of variables around weather associated with it. But I want to talk about today some practical things you can do when you have to deal with fishing with the wind. And most of the time, wind is not that big of a factor in fishing until it starts getting over about, say 15 miles an hour. It's pretty manageable. If it stays less than 15 miles an hour, it doesn't really have a huge impact on your boat positioning, your casting, and how the fish position. It can do a little bit. But once you start getting into those heavier winds, like the 15, 20, 25 mile an hour winds, which happen, if you fish, you're going to have to deal with that at some extent, then it's sort of a different ball game. It makes things a lot different, a lot more difficult in some areas, and I sort of want to give you guys my advice on that. So the first thing that I want to do, let's talk about the practical fishing applications. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of anglers make is they fish into the wind all the time. It's like I see this all the time. You see them fighting the wind, bucking the wind, just trying to hold their position, working into the wind. Guys, just forget about doing that. Unless you are throwing at a specific target. Say you got a brush pile on a point in 15 foot of water where there's a bunch of fish on, and you got to, cast to that particular brush pile, and you've got to hit that exact spot. That's the only time you should be working into the wind. If you're just fishing, like you're going down a grass line, you're working down a bank or whatever, always go with the wind, always, because there's a couple different things that does here. Number one is you can make a longer cast with it. Your line lays better, your lure presentation is more natural. You're more quiet because you're not on the trolling motor all the time. You can drift up through there. And one of the things you can do, if the wind is blowing you, a little bit too fast past an area, a couple different things you can do. Just crank up and make another pass. If you went down a bank too fast the first time, just crank up and go down it again. Keep doing that over and over again. That's one of my favorite techniques, is just keep drifting and drifting and drifting down the same pass with the wind. Other things you can do with that is you can get a drift sock. You can purchase these things called drift socks that they use up at the Great Lakes a lot. It's basically like a little parachute that hangs out behind your boat. You can get these paddles that power on your power poles that slow stuff down. So there's some ways you can slow it down in heavy winds. And I'm talking about winds that are usually over 20 miles an hour in this type of situation. But one of the things that I have found out is that if you try to fish into the wind, it's really, really going to harm your efficiency. You can't, like I said, your lure presentations aren't as natural. You lose contact with your bait. You're going to backlash casting into the wind. You can't cast as far. And the noise of the trolling motor constantly being on, trying to propel you forward, is a negative to the fish too. Okay, that's one thing. Now, the next thing with that is, like, you've got to take advantage of the wind to help you catch more fish. Now, most of the time, wind makes fish bite a little bit better. The only exception to that is that I have found is in muddy water or really cold water. So if you have water visibilities of under about 12 inches, wind's not your friend in a situation like that. It's going to usually kicks up even more particulate, makes it even more dirty. So you don't want that. You need to get out of the wind if you're fishing dirty water, or cold water, like the winter time of year. Winter is not a good time to fish in heavy winds, but for any other situation, most of the time, wind is going to activate the fish more. And just because the wind is blowing hard, like 20, 25 miles an hour, it doesn't mean you have to be out fishing in that. You can find protected areas. You can find lee banks that are that are out of the wind a little bit. You can get back into protected areas. There's always some type of water that you can get into to fish in. But one of the things about it is you don't want to take yourself away from the fish simply to get out of the wind. So one of the realities of fishing sometimes, guys, is you just have to get out there and fight it. You have to get out there and realize it's going to be hard to keep your balance in the boat, and you're going to have to be cranking up a lot and making multiple passes. You're not going to be as efficient. That's just part of it. But for the most part, it's going to activate those fish a little bit more. Now, another thing to remember in hard wind is take advantage of the aggressiveness that the wind creates within the fish by fishing larger moving lures. Anytime that it's really windy out there, you might as well put your slow stuff down. Put your jigs and your creature baits and all your bottom stuff away. Pull out your bigger power baits, your moving baits. This is a great time to fish larger crankbaits, spinner baits, chatter baits, lipless crankbaits. All those type of lure categories are going to be, accentuated with the wind. And probably my two favorite baits to fish in the wind when it's really, really windy like that is a spinner bait or a lipless crankbait. It just seems like a spinner bait and a lipless crankbait really shine when it's super windy, so take advantage of that. And main thing, guys, is just realize that it is what it is. Don't try to cuss the wind. Don't try to use it to your disadvantage. Try to take advantage of it. Try to get out there and have a little bit of an attitude adjustment and say, okay, it's windy, it's going to suck. I'm probably going to get wet in the boat when I move across this cove. The waves are going to slap up and get spray in my face. It's going to be hard to stand up in the boat, but at the same time, just tell yourself it's probably going to activate those fish, and there's not going to be as many people on the lake, so use it to your advantage. Some of the best days I've ever had have come on super, super windy days when I get into an area that is getting hit hard by wind, but at the same time, I'm able to fish it. So that's another big thing with it. So anyway, guys, just a few tips for that. Like I said, that's just a real basic foundation of some stuff that I have found about it. It's really helped me out throughout the years, and hope it helps you guys catch a few. We'll talk later.